This is the Flotilla Friday call for June 18th, 2021. Welcome. Let me first real quick show show off the event page for this call. Hang on just a sec. And Vincent, it's okay if I show people how it looks when you edit one of these, right? You're muted.
Can you understand what I was saying from my hands?
Ready or
Anyone?
not.
Going once?
It looked really compelling.
I didn't see it. Can you just do it again?
I don't know. No, it's natural. I can't fake it. But what I was saying was I also wonder if the flotilla events should now be editable by anyone, or maybe after this call I can make the flotilla events editable by anyone in flotilla, because this will be your mandatory training of knowing how not to break the event. Probably my fault if that happens anyways, like it was this morning where Pete couldn't edit the event. But yeah,
I have to do this
totally
anyway
great.
for Kikolab, so yeah.
Totally great to share, and then maybe after this I can make it where we could make the events that anyone could edit it, or
That would be cool. So as Vincent said last night, I wasn't able to edit this, so I can tell there's a little bit of different stuff. The important thing here is this edit event, and I guess I maybe would have gotten to this event via like the list of events, explore events. I was using Descript, the transcript-based video editor last night, and so now I'm self-conscious every time I say or because there's an easy way to undo that in Descript.
I'm totally envious.
Anyway,
having that tool.
so right here, this is the series, and let's edit this particular one. Let's go to that particular one, I guess. And then since I've got the power, I can edit it. And then there's all kinds of
confirm button, because if you click that delete, it's gone. There's no confirmation. So that's one thing maybe I might want to add before giving anyone the ability to edit. Just like, are you sure you want to delete this? It's gonna be gone.
Quick question. So there's not really a backup?
It would have to be manual.
Not yet.
Just checking. Yep. I never thought about that, but
yeah, there's always a backup, but it might not be easy.
No, I mean, if it's synced to the cloud, and then you can go, okay, well, 10 minutes earlier or whatever.
So you can see all kinds of good stuff here. You can see the series title and then the subtitle for like this week's call, and then the generic event description. And then below here is a longer description that could be for this particular instance. Things like cool places to tag stuff, delete this event or all the recurring events. And then this one, I think this one might be something that if you weren't using HackMD, you might keep updating this. But I think what Vince and I talked about was using HackMD and then copy pasting it into here. Lots of places for other metadata, which is really cool. So it's coming along really nicely, Vincent. Congratulations.
So HackMD or something like that is recommended. It's kind of best practice, or how do you want to say?
I don't know.
For Flotilla, probably yes. I think so. Right now, the notes in this chat is I don't know what's going to happen if multiple people try to edit it all at the same time. It might be that you have to refresh. Yeah, you might have to refresh the page to get the updated edits. Like it auto syncs to the database, but it doesn't. I might have to set something where every 5 seconds it auto refreshes the page or that element to be able to get the updated notes, or else it's not like live. So If we're doing like multiple people collaborating on notes, probably HackMD just works best for now, and then pasting into here. If you're like, I think one thing that this is the most helpful for, it's like roles for an event. If you're the curator for the event, you're taking notes, this will be great because this is your one place to do it inside of the event page. And you could also on the right add links like really, really easily. So you can just say like cool article that I found, paste the link, and then hit submit, and it adds it as a resource attached to the event. Or if there's like a really important topic that we start to go into, like sense making or IP, and you just add that as a topic there, it's this is like an easy dashboard to be able to like in real time be adding things and linking things to the event that you don't have to do any post processing afterwards, like copying and pasting or linking or importing. It's all here. So in terms of making it collaborative, the like call links thing is collaborative and the topics discussed is collaborative, but the notes right now, it's not going to sync in real time as well as HackMD.
So quick question, or kind of quick question and comment. So in terms of the HackMD document, would that link be better placed in the during the event if it's really like a live document during the event? You know,
right now it's right now I've got it in the agenda. Oops.
Okay, but
I've got it in the agenda here.
For those that don't know, or before the habit is built up, it may be more obvious since it's like during the call. I'm just thinking out loud. And then similarly, like you have it up there under links, but then also below, there's the links that the call links. So there's a different links. And if I recall, Vincent, that's still just according to the order they're put in, right? There's just, they go in that order.
Yes, right now,
right.
It's just the order they go in terms of the format, the order of the links. I haven't added something to be able to move them up and down yet, but I might be able to do that soon. And the call links, you could also add the agenda in the call links. And if you add the agenda in the call links before the event starts, like at 11:59, it'll show up where the agenda shows up because it knows that you added it before the event. So there's pre-event links and post-event links, and automatically knows depending on the time that you add the link.
So Vincent is, I want to add a topics discussed. Is Trove a good topic to discuss? What are typical topics I would add?
Sure, yeah, you just have to click enter. So a topic could be anything. It's like a hashtag. There's no structure for topics. Well, there is structure for topics, but it could be whatever you want. The thing that we're doing is then going through all the new topics that were added and then linking them to other topics or to major topics or to the networks or to groups or to, basically you can set the relationships between topics. So if you go to the catalyst.network/explore-topics,
one of the things I noticed here, a lot of this live saves, but it freaks me out that there's not a save button.
you want a little thing saying saved pop up?
Yeah, everything's saved, everything's synced to the cloud or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So say that again. Explore
and then -topics.
Explore -topics.
Yeah. So right now it's explore-topics, explore-events, explore- or you can just do explore and then it'll take you there too.
Yep.
Super quick. Just back on this thing that I guess I touched on before in terms of the backup. Synced to the cloud, are there actually backups, even though it would be a hassle if it was like an emergency? Or let me put it another way. Is it something, maybe not a priority now, but to be able to go back an hour or to yesterday, or just to have one setting? Do you know what I mean? Is that feasible at some point?
Yes, but it's not like Google Drive where anyone could manage that. It's right now just managed on the back.
Understood.
Yeah, but okay. I could revert to past versions, or I could make copies or backup. I have backups. Yeah.
I mean, it might be worth it from the community dashboard perspective to have a setting or two easy settings if there's really a mess up. It's just sort of nice to have at some point,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, this is the community building topic. And oh, actually, I need to turn something on.
I clicked on a random one, so we're off script
No, that's
at this
okay.
point, which is good. What's this text box here? Like a description?
So that's for the description. If there's not a description, then the text box shows up and you could add one. I should probably add a placeholder to say add a description for community building.
Yep.
The other thing that I'm working on doing is just going through the list of topics and then pushing it to Wikipedia and then getting the description from Wikipedia back.
Yep.
So hopefully most topics will have a description soon, just from doing that. But I have to turn on one thing real quick. But yeah, as you can see, there's like all the related things connected to that topic. If you go to the explore topics and you go to education, that's one where there's a lot of different things connected and linked to it. So it might give you a better idea. And you could, you could search in the search box, or if you found it already, then that works too. So yeah, if you added Trove to the event, so then under the Trove topic should be today's event under events. And so this is how it does the linking between all the different data types that are available.
It's pretty cool.
So I'm trying to turn something on, but if it doesn't, I could also screen share because I have it.
I have the request.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if at some point maybe it would be quick to show how the video embeds and the different ways to do it, or the flexibility around that.
The video embeds for the event
on the event page.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, if it comes up, either of you. If not, then I'll come to it another time. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something. It's pretty, I would say, straightforward. So let me screen share real quick. So you go to. So I also have in the sidebar a kind of like quick access, where basically if you're looking for an event, it's kind of going to suggest the events that you might want to find really quickly. And so it has the events that you're hosting that are within 7 days plus or minus from where you are. So it has like Flotilla Fridays will be right here. So yeah, if you go onto that event page, so basically after the event is over, then you're going to go to the bottom of the page, which is this post event. And I could probably just add a prompt here, but the only thing for the YouTube links is that when you add a YouTube video, you have to add the ID at the end of the video. So instead of putting youtube.com/video equals then a bunch of random numbers, you just put the numbers here. And so if you put random numbers and then you add it, it's going to add it there, and it'll automatically make the first video as the main video. And then if you add another ID for a second video, it'll add the second video, and then you could change that one to the main one if you want, and it'll remove the other one, and then you could also delete videos as well.
So thank you so much. Yeah, that's the part I didn't know about, just the numbers.
And then the otter part is right under that.
Yeah.
or transcript link in general.
The thing that I haven't done is actually have like an audio player for the transcripts. I just have, I don't know actually what the desire is for the audio, like for audio files, like if there should be like a little player there, or
if it's
You mean
if it's like an Otter link, then that's probably good enough, because they'll
yeah, just keep it in Otter.
just a URL to Otter.
Yeah.
It's already all there.
Yeah, so that probably makes the most sense.
In most cases, there'll be exceptions, I'm sure. Pete, did you totally stop your energy around transcription stuff? I know that was a while ago.
Not totally. It's just on the back burner.
Okay. So potentially, eventually, you would have something useful, maybe superior, or who knows?
Yeah. The real-time transcription stuff is whenever I get knowledge weavers more spun up, the real-time transcription stuff is really cool. The other thing that I'm thinking of doing is just a simple upload a video and get the text back. So Wendy Elford and I are working a bunch on like slinging different kinds of text around. So when we get a little bit further along with that, we would love to turn videos into text. And then, although Wendy says it's not worth doing any text wrangling with text and with a transcript unless it's actually corrected, like like very accurate 99.9 or something like that. 95 isn't good enough. So
yeah,
I unfortunately believe
okay.
Phil, what do you want to say?
You probably already know this, but Zoom has free transcription as an accessibility service.
I kind of knew that, but I've tried to find it and have not found it.
I think I have a how-to video or walkthrough, so I'll send it over.
Yeah, I'd love that. YouTube also does, it transcribes a lot of the stuff that gets uploaded to it. I don't know if there's rules about what gets transcribed and what doesn't, because sometimes they don't. But you can use YouTube DL to grab the caption file. Although then you have to run it through something that understands how to turn it into plain text. So I've got some of those tools lying around. Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Super. Time signatures in the video URL and the query string. Can we handle those? Start time, stop time, in addition to the ID?
In the YouTube link?
Yeah, the YouTube link.
It's a really good idea.
You could just put one, but what would you use it for?
Gosh.
Right to a place, right? That's it.
Yeah, just go to.
So maybe that's a meeting
point in the video. Yeah.
A meeting link. Yeah, that's a good idea.
What do you mean meeting link? I didn't follow.
Well, for the general recording, you don't want a time code on it, right? You want the whole meeting, but
it could be for something else, like if there's a part of an
if you want to say a topic or something like that. So then that would be just a link, one of the standard meeting links.
Actually, that would be great for the hot seat, for example, at Kikolab or any sort of noteworthy segment that begins with a certain place. Yeah,
I guess so you could already do that just with a regular meeting link. Vincent could do something fancy where he supports those as embeds or something like that, but I don't know if that gets you a lot.
Do you have an example link? We could try it, see if it works. It might just work.
Well, you can just make a dummy one.
It would work for, I guess he already has a list of YouTube links. So yeah, that would work too. So the main one would be not without a time code, and then
I'm guessing it would work if you did the same way without the URL.
Yeah. Oh, actually, maybe it wouldn't with the ID there.
Why
Let's
not?
try it.
I mean,
Let's try
isn't
it.
that easy to find out? I mean, we might as well because it's fairly straightforward, right?
Yep.
Because again, I think especially for citations of lectures or whatever, then this is like a very handy thing to do, right? If those bells are too loud, I can mute.
No, they're kind of cool. This is a really funny URL or a funny ID. It starts with dash.
Yeah, I saw some that had like 2 underscores, and I was like, is this right?
Thanks. Let's pick a different place.
Well, I totally missed last week. I'm excited at some point to go back to the recording. You could find some.
It's a
spots.
fun, yeah, it was a fun meeting.
Does anybody know Mech Carpelis? Michael Carpelis? He's here at the Internet Archive. He is trying to create a learning aggregation of the best clips of YouTube videos with start and stop times, and basically, allow people to basically use those videos as a learning resource. So anybody can create clips from any video and basically share the start and stop times and assemble them into a kind of courseware. I haven't seen it in 6 months because I've been out, but it was a great idea and kind of fun. And I can look up, where he's gotten so far. He's kind of gone a ways with it.
Sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name, or just let keep us in the loop?
Sure. I'll find it out, and I think put it in the Flotilla Friday channel when I find it out. And good morning, everyone, or good evening.
Good morning, good evening.
Indeed.
Mark, if I'm not wrong, Archive has an incredible suite of like old VHS tapes from TV from the 80s or 90s or something.
Yes, we do. And we have also, I think people have gone at the video transcription problem. I'd have to research that as well.
Yeah.
So certainly we want to be a resource to community efforts, but I need to get back up to speed. And unfortunately, I need to get back to, I need to leave here about 15 minutes before 10 because we have a 10 o'clock meeting every Friday. So that's kind of unfortunate. But
before you go,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You had something to finish? I have a question for you before at some
Oh,
point.
I was just going to say happy to be here. I'll just try to show up between 9 and 10. But this morning I didn't get breakfast, so I'll have to go and leave a little early. Go ahead, Charles.
But I'm just curious about if there's any kind of recap, update, status of the quest. The tracking dynamics of collaboration or something?
Exactly, tracking collaboration dynamics. So for those of you who don't know, I started the quest, and I need to talk a lot with Vincent because Stephen Kreutzer is saying that, oh, everything's been done already, and just people don't talk to each other, they don't collaborate, and things exist. And as I've been had a software career since 1984, I know that reinventing the wheel basically is the name of the game. So certainly, I don't think that a week is a very long time. And so basically I'm looking for design patterns and what a beautiful book, Understanding Computers and Cognition by Fernando Flores and Terry Winograd at Stanford, called Implications for Design. So, you know, in here for the long haul. And I'll just, you know, hope that people start contribute. I try to like set a pattern for contribution, see what happens and adapt to that. Hope to see you there more, Charles.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh,
Cool.
and link to things like IF. I mean, there's lots that I don't know. And certainly
it's funny you should say that. I don't know if you could see, I just wrote this post-it note, IF. Yeah, exactly. Pattern language.
What's IF?
Oh, come on, really? No, I'm just kidding. Interoperability flow.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
So this little experiment worked. So the observations I've got, Vincent, are so now it would be kind of nice to have a header that you could type in what, you know. So this is this part of the call, and that, yeah, and then this embed isn't quite big enough somehow.
Oh yeah, yep, I see that.
But it works.
Cool. So yeah.
Thanks for asking, Charles.
Cool. No, that's great.
No,
yeah, it's
was
perfect.
it Charles or Mark?
Well, Mark had the idea, and I was like, "Come
Yes.
on, let's just try it," you know.
Yes. So yeah.
Because I agree, it's going to be really useful for like research and resources and stuff.
I think
there's also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just to answer Pete's question. I think the best thing to do would just be to pull the title from YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
Good. Well, actually, no, because
it's like an annotation.
The use case is like Kikolab, and you want to say, you know, here's the hot seat on, you know, XYZ. Here's the, you know, the flow show. So you actually need it to be able to type it in.
So
well, it could.
Unless
what about
even fancier, YouTube will let you type in chapters, you know, and then you could pull those maybe.
Well, that's an extra. So what about having by default? What about by default? It's the same title from YouTube, but then you can change it if you have the time or you want
to. That's totally fair.
Vincent, is that fair?
Oh yeah, I've just offloaded the work onto YouTube for now. It's like, well,
right.
Yeah, it's possible.
Phil, you've got a hand.
Yeah, actually, I was just the talk about IF and things like that reminded me that I was in a conversation yesterday with a group working on interoperable platform schemas, so kind of a unified schema for profiles. And Vince came up. They actually came across Trove and were interested in speaking to Vince about some of the work you're doing in mapping and on schemas.
Who was there? Wait, I'm just now really curious because there's too much convergence. If you might say if it's okay, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. So it was a group of people from the Collaborative Tech Alliance. So Oliver Sylvester.
Exactly.
I forget Sylvester.
No, Oliver Bream McIntosh.
Oliver Bream McIntosh. There's a second Oliver, Ollie Sylvester.
Sylvester Bradley.
Sylvester Bradley. Julian Hovey.
Simon Grant wasn't able to make it, but would have been there.
Yeah, and Tyler DeBrow from New Network.
Right on. And Michael, I think I wasn't aware.
Charles, you cut out.
Oh, I muted by accident. Sorry. So Vincent and I found ourselves on a call with Naomi Smith and K.R. Young and another guy. I forgot his first name, Vincent.
Brian.
Brian von Hergen or Herger or something. Anyway, so yeah, just a small world because and Ollie just reached out to me yesterday too.
While we're on, go ahead.
What's that?
I was going to say while we were on schemas real quick, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, on schemas, I mean, I encourage that we pull you in, Vincent and Charles. I mean, you know, we need to all pull together if we can, where we can connect. So yeah, that would be really great. Would love to talk about that more. think some good ideas came up, and they could really interface. Another thing, speaking of interoperability, is your, I'm wondering about the artifacts of, I'm looking at this and seeing how organized the content is for the event, and like how complete, you know, the picture is that you like after the event totally exists and everything is aggregated, and that's really cool. I'm wondering about whether we might pull, you know, complement by pulling and disaggregating artifacts with linkage to the event, so that when somebody looks for just something that's contained in, like, say, one of the videos and finds that single item, we can point to the event page. And this is provided it's something that somebody chooses to make public.
Right.
But like in our granular world, in Factor, these could be like little breadcrumbs that lead to something in Trove. So that would be, I mean, I don't know if there's a way of generating RSS. Yeah, I mean, we can ingest it in different ways, but that might be a thing that we could do to interoperate.
Yeah, that definitely sounds awesome. I think, yeah, Nora Bateson's kind of idea of like, when you have data, not removing the context, like, very much inspired me. It's like, yes, you need to have the context there, which is why Trove seems to have like, okay, it's also events, and it has topics, and it has resources and communities. It's because like the links and the fat edges between those things like provides the necessary context, where it's like, if you find the resources that we talk about in this call and they're not tied to like what the context is that we talked about them in, they lose some of their meaning. And so being able to have backlinks to the event where you're like, okay, why was this actually so important? Why are people talking about this so much? Oh, it's because it was in the context of the generative commons, which makes sense that they're talking about IP in this way, and also combines with this. So yeah, I think being able to link back to the event page and that will provide the needed context, and it's definitely possible. And yeah, and I'm excited to have a meeting with Ali on next week. So I feel like the flotilla ship for Trove is docking. We haven't gotten off yet and like said hi, but it's you know, it's in the process of docking. So like started to make contact. So yeah, that's the current stage of the journey.
Phil, I'm curious because I feel like I got so excited, but I cut you off. If there was anything else you were trying to say about schemas or stuff, we sort of got into the names thing. But
I was gonna say,
no. Sorry, Pete. Sorry. Yeah, Pete, go ahead.
I was going to say about schemas. I did a little bit of reading this morning, and there's, so like for a person, there's the microformats has a person schema, and Murmurations has a schema. Murmuration also has their schemas decomposed into fields. So you can use a field in Murmurations in multiple schemas, and they kind of encourage you to make your own schema out of their fields and invent new fields if you want. Schema.org has, schema.org is search engine oriented, but they've got some huge schemas for things that a search engine would care about. So it's kind of worth poking around and you know, seeing what's out there already. Microformats, by the way, is they've got like person, event, and maybe organization, stuff like that. They've got some good ones. It's pretty old. It's actually goes back to like vCard and iCard and stuff like that. Is where their inspirations were. So a lot of schema stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, that you're this is some of the same stuff we were talking about with schema.org, and
Yep.
one of the creators of Murmurations, or one of the people involved in Murmurations, was one of the people on the calls. The other Ali,
Very cool.
Vince, the one you didn't talk to, and so I mean he's sort of the biggest, you know, technical head in the conversation. So yeah, let's.
And yeah, that all the schemas seem to suck. They don't quite work the way you want them to.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
sorry,
go ahead.
Michael. Well, I was just gonna say, Oliver was asking people to go to Murmurations and try things out and see if they work as schema, just to test it. He wants it to be kind of a playground for schema. But
Yep.
Yeah, so this is something that I'm very fervently, please change my mind if there's any resistance to this idea, but I have a very fervent belief that the best frameworks are discovered, and they also are made within the context of the greater system of what you're trying to achieve, like the intentions. And so, like, without figuring out what the end goal of what kind of like interface and experience for a person using a platform that you want, it's going to be really hard to design a schema, and just going with the standard schema that exists will just kind of keep you in the current state of the way that people interact with information. And so, like, for example, like for event specific schema, so I was talking about if your intention is to have a relationship between a person and an event that is more nuanced than just I'm interested, I'm going, or I'm not going, then instead of having the event with 3 fields for the people IDs for who's going, who's interested, who's not going, well, what if you want to be able to have, when people are at an event, they have a role and they have something that they did at that event that was really valuable. You want to be able to reward or contextualize someone's role in an event as a curator or a note taker, or if that event surrounds a course, which is something that Naomi and Kaela are working on with Permaculture Collab. We were talking about how, like, okay, that actually completely changes the way you want to design the information architecture and the schema, because now there's a fat edge between a person and an event, and you want to have a whole nother data type for the relationship between these two entities. And you want to have the information about going, interested, not going in that data type. And then you want to add on top of it what they thought about the event, what the role that they had during that event was, what learning outcomes were tied to it and tied to that relationship. So that's just one example of how really thinking about the intention and not just going and adopting whatever schema is being used right now. That's kind of how I've been approaching the schema design, is like, what is the desired outcome, and then how do we build our way there, and then how do we do it in a way that also can be as interoperable as possible with the schemas that don't think about those things.
I'm not trying to change your mind. I agree, and I think one of the things for forging commonality and interoperability is probably to, you know, not tackle the edges as much as the fields, you know, just in looking for ways that one of the things that we were talking about, and I've talked about with other people around identity, is the desire to have a handle on one's own identity and information. And like, if you imagine your own schema.org profile that nobody else sees, and the prospect of your being able to say, I'll share this, and this with X platform or merchant or whatever it is, but your visibility on all your fields is kind of conceptually where you start, so that if new fields are added, you want them added to your jurisdiction so you can decide whether to share it. And if you think of possible person fields in that light, it's just additive, continually additive. And for Trove or Factor or any other platform to only use a segment of those fields is fine. And and then for Trove to have much more sophisticated edges between those fields and events where somebody else doesn't, is fine too, with the consent of the user. But having the largest possible set of shared fields between platforms and having that be transparent to the users seems like a good basic model. Does that jive with what you were saying, you think?
So I'll add one thing. So I guess I feel there's a tension that I think we need to. So how I saw it is, if you have a fat edge between a user and another type of field, like an event, then that's the opportunity to add more specific privacy information about that data thing, right? So like, for example, in my settings on Facebook, I could say like, do I want my profile to be public? And if my profile is public, then I believe me attending an event, at least before they did a major update, was available on every event. Like you just saw Vincent is going to this event. So that's not as much like, dials and privacy specification as like, for this event, I want my me attending the event to be public, or I want it to be restricted to only my friends or friends of friends, or like being able to add that level of complexity, and then being able to also say, for this series of events, I want me attending to be sent to Factor or sent to another platform. And then for these private events, I don't want it sent. Then if you build that into the data design, it becomes a lot easier to manage how to sync data to other platforms without worrying about like data being sent that somebody is attached to that they don't want to be sent to that platform. So that's why I'm trying to like disambiguate the private information out of the fields that might be interoperable and make it in control of the user to have that. That's just how I've been thinking about the design, like the kind of RDF, like this is related to that. I feel like it needs to have a fourth thing, which is, and who can use it or see it or pull it, right? And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe I wasn't saying that well, but I agree with what you're saying completely. To me, the only question is like, if you think of it in terms of, and we were using this term a lot, the nutrition label, like the standardized baseline that somebody can either adopt or can even be imposed on something else. Like you don't have to be a participating platform for somebody to say, ideally, okay, they are using this information, that information, this information, and they don't have any restrictions on it. So this is what Facebook looks like in that schema. Even if Facebook isn't telling you, ideally you can see, as you were saying, oh, Facebook exposes this information about me in this situation. I want to turn that off, ideally. So, just the standardization of that, those dials and those fields. I'm not as eloquent as you, but yes.
yes. No, so yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think, no, I'm excited to, kind of talk more with the CTA and see how interoperable we are now and maybe where it's going to go. But yeah, I think in terms of there's the golden trade-off between like making things as interoperable as possible and also allowing for flexibility. So how can we do both of those? How do we do there's a function. I have an engineering background, so yeah, there's some equation that you can maximize both, and that's what you want to do.
Vincent, you wanted to do mapping stuff today. Are we following that track well?
I think, let's see. So I have to run in about 45 minutes. I wouldn't mind doing some continuing thread from last week and talking more about the mapping. But maybe what do you guys
are you
think?
doing? Sorry, but you have an event also a little bit later, right? Is that relating to the same topic, actually? It seemed like I was confused. I didn't mean to interrupt, but just maybe you can refer to something that's happening later if it's relevant.
Well, if you prompt me, I could probably tell you how any two things are related. But yeah, everything is
for
related.
For us here, I mean, yeah, context.
The event later is laying out opportunity schema, right? Basically.
Yeah, exactly. I posted a link to that in the Mattermost, but I can share it here too. It's also a public event on the Event Explorer. But yeah, that's at 2 p.m. And then I'm going to be in the Radish Conversation Chrysalis room for about a half hour before that. So anyone interested in talking about, I don't know how much this intersects with mapping, but it definitely intersects with what we're talking about now with the schemas. So that's the event.
Right on.
Yeah, so trying to not solidify, because nothing is ever going to be solidified, especially in a week, but I've waited to design the opportunity schema until a lot of other pieces were set around it, because it's such an important and essential piece to Trove. And I also wanted to also design it kind of with other platforms and people in mind. So I've been having some conversations with different like needs, offers, matching platforms, and I have some other ones this week. A few of them couldn't make the call that we're going to have at 2 p.m. But yeah, we'll probably have a few different sessions before we like solidify any sort of schema design for opportunities, which I haven't been able to find any good examples of, because it's not an opportunity type. It's not a data type that's very standardized as far as I can tell. So like how I'm defining an opportunity is it can be attached to an event or a project or a community or a person, and it's a time sensitive. You have to put an expiration, or else it becomes it'll become automatically, if you have any database of opportunities, it's going to be out of date really, really quickly. And so you have to put an expiration date, or it gives you an automatic expiration, or else you're going to not have good data. And those opportunities then can have more information like a title, a description, a type, if it's a request or an offer, and then who can see the opportunity is the basics of the opportunity schema.
Schema has a pretty good one called offer.
For offer?
Yep.
So one of the things that we're discussing is an offer. Does schema.org think an offer is the same as a request?
I don't know the opposite of an offer. I was just looking for that. I put a link in the chat in the Zoom chat for offer, and maybe demand.
Yeah, this is great. We're definitely going to share this at 2 p.m. to start.
The demand is pretty close. Yeah. And it's kind of explicitly an opposite to offer.
Cool.
Yeah, schema.org is pretty useful.
The one thing I totally missed, I really love that Murmurations has mission for organization, and I don't think Schema.org has anything like that. Not surprisingly, but I mean, bummed me out.
Mhm. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, so I don't know how much we want to go into that here. If anyone's interested to come at 2, you're welcome to join. But I think I'm going to add that to the to the event links for 2 p.m.
So we started you down mapping maybe.
About like a tiny recap of last week, or if there's anything quick, maybe just to say or show, or not, if that might be relevant for anyone else too.
So I can do that. So I'm going to show the artifact that came out of last week.
I mean, I can also just watch, but if there's others that want to hear last week, then.
So basically, last week, we had the ambitious goal of having a map, and we got a map. This map is only one view of the territory, and it seems like it's from the perspective of Flotilla, which makes sense. And this map we built off of a Airtable database, which could also be used to send this same information and data to other software. So the reason why we have the data in Airtable is because you can very easily rearrange the fields and export this into various mapping tools. So we could create a Kumu graph out of the same data. This graph that we made, we experimented with Graph Commons. And Graph Commons has some affordances that Kumu doesn't have, and also has others that it doesn't. And I think there's also a list in the tools and technology channel in Mattermost of other mapping tools that we might want to look into. The cool thing about Graph Commons is that if you, not on the embed, but if you go to the actual platform, you could just draw lines between different nodes and you can add connections. And maybe it would be helpful to just reflect on this map and what we wish it might be. And the one thing that I would add to that question as my answer would be, I think it would be really helpful to have like fatter edges between the different groups, so that way somebody new coming into Flotilla could really get a big picture view of like what's happening, and basically be able to know like how Catalyst and Trove are related, how Trove and Kikolab are related, how Kikolab and Factor and Flotilla are connected, maybe more than just the relationship type. So when you click on a node, it pulls up the like other information. It shows the connections, and I believe for the connections, you might be able to add information to the connections too, like a description or something like that.
So I was just curious. I guess that's a good break to get this question in. About this information in the descriptions, which I was just thinking about this right before you even said that, but the kind of information that could go in there could have something to do with, and I'm just thinking out loud, but the activity exchange between community members and or communities and projects. And I don't know, it could have something to do with, I mean, there's no communication, so I'm not sure what that kind of exchange would be, but that could make it somehow dynamic, and that would literally grow the thickness of the edge somehow. Anyway, I hope that was useful.
Yes, and you could do, technically there's two different ways to do that. One is to have one edge between each two nodes. The other is you can have multiple edges between two nodes. So, for example, OGM could be related to Flotilla, and OGM could also have connections with Flotilla, and OGM also could donate money to Flotilla. There could be multiple relationship types, and each one of those relationship types can have a strength and additional information, like a description.
Groovy. Thank you. I think I have to make a quick call, so I'm going to come back, guys. But thanks.
Michael, you have any thoughts about last week or mapping going forward?
Sorry, no, my hand up was a wave at Charles.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Go for it, Bill.
I got a comment. So I really like this idea about multiple links that describe different kinds of relationships. It might get a little messy in a graph, but I like the idea that that could, start to show like a kind of a strength of connection among nodes, as between people. Some people have very strong connections, other are weak links, and that's useful. But I think that I really like that rather than trying to cram a bunch of different kinds of information into one complex schema about a link. I'm just trying to keep things a little separated because once you get into like the one schema to describe it all, we know where that ends. And I don't want to go to Soren's Mountain anymore. I'm done with that. So, I'm being a little flip, but you know what I mean? I think you're on a really good idea there because to the extent that you can separate, like a funding kind of a thing, a certain kind of either process or project management back and forth, a certain kind of, the just kind of information exchange or development or, I think it would be helpful you might discover among the nodes in Trove that could actually really be quite valuable. But anyway, I really like that idea. I think it has some legs here.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. You talking also gave me an idea for another additional layer on top of each relationship, which is, do both parties agree? So if the edge is between two parties, and you probably are not going to have every edge created in a conversation with both parties there, can I propose the relationship and then it doesn't actually go live until the other piece of the puzzle says, yep, I agree with this relationship?
So this reminds me of, I don't know if you know, in the scientific world, a number of, it could have been a long time ago now, 7, 8 years, somebody created a citation ontology called CITO, and it's had huge legs. It's now grown up. It's all over. But the argument was that it's one thing to cite an article when you're writing something. The other thing is to actually specify the reason you're citing it. Like, I'm citing this article because it's a counterexample to what I'm proposing, right? And so they had determined a whole range of attributes of citations that are useful in academic writing. And I once made a bunch of students, when they wrote papers, to actually use the citation ontology and force them to annotate every citation. But there's something there in terms of breaking stuff out and really producing something that has some value, because it came from the argument that, sometimes there are papers that have, bajillion citations because that's the archetypal paper cited for. This is not the way to do it. So it turns out to be a highly cited paper, but no one should read it because it's basically trash.
Yeah.
Fat edges.
What's that?
Fat edges.
Yeah, I like that. In a way, it's a counter to the thing about like, keep the network stupid. Remember that thing about connectivity? Put the brains out in the leaves rather than having these nodes. Oh, I know what you want to do with this piece of information. It's like, you have no idea. you know. So it
Yeah,
is a.
adding the context again. Yeah.
So the one thing I would like to say that about that, because I made some of my side notes, I think that's super important. But I think what needs to be done, and I'd be happy to try and contribute, is you need to really define what the context is, because this can get bigger than a pumpkin. And you really have a specific, some specific goals in mind of capability and affordances. And I think you should really be rigorous about when you say this is what you're talking about. And here are the examples. Because, to just say, I believe, data isn't anything without metadata, because it's, you can have two Arabic numerals, but they don't mean anything unless they're like, they're representing something. So I think that would be really important here, because I think it would really help. Because people have different, when you say context, it's like a chocolate conversation. My wife was in a consulting group with a lot of senior execs, and they used to just say the word chocolate and then go around the room and ask everybody what they thought of, and said, see, that happens all the time in your meetings. You say a word and there's 12 different understandings. So I know I know it's a little limiting, but I think you should really put a stake in the ground for what you're doing here. So when you use the word, here's what I mean.
Yeah.
In for example, the context of trove. Now, there might be something else that happens that has like a different context for that. But I mean, that's just, I think, it's what we people do.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really important question, and maybe we could answer that. Like, why am I interested in mapping? Why are you guys interested in mapping? Why are we talking about this? Like, I have a probably different answer than you guys have. So that would actually be really, I think that would be a very generative question to answer if you guys know the answer, or maybe it's just curiosity or interest.
I'm interested in mapping because I'm going for understanding here. In the last years of my life, I want some understanding. So mapping seems to help.
I can answer it with respect to kind of the network that we're in, network of collectives of collectives. It's like, so what are the collectives around me, and how can I remember that, and how can I think about them when I'm thinking about stuff, and then how can I show that to somebody else, right? The view from my mask, or the view, or ask them, what's the view from your mask, or let's make a synthetic mask kind of in the middle someplace, and what do we see? So it's a way of understanding the context of my organization and other organizations I'm talking to.
Yeah,
and it's important that you can have that viewpoint from different places, right? What's the viewpoint from here? What's the viewpoint from there?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I'm kind of in a similar place with this network. I feel like that we've talked to so many people that are working on such interesting things, and they're just working in silos. And I feel like, I guess we all feel like that if we could combine efforts and specialize, kind of catalyze bringing out the best end goal of these individual efforts in a shared way, I think that would be a powerful outcome of this mapping exercise, that people can look at it and say, oh, who's working in this space, who's related to me, who am I not related to, and reach out that way.
Yeah, I agree with that, Phil. And what I would add
there's a few concepts from software architecture, service-oriented architecture, and microservices. You know, one of the first things that you have to have is service discovery. You know, if I need to accomplish this thing, what microservice is the one that I would call to do that? What microservices, right? And you know, what flavors of you know, what data can I give them and what will they give me back? So maybe I'll choose between, you know, 3 different microservices, you know, the one that is the best. So kind of just in a simple robotic way, you know, microservices architecture, you know, you end up needing the same kinds of things in a human network, right? How do I find people, and then how do I look up when they answered the question, the profile questions, you know, how can I find that? Or how can I kind of automatically find that? And then how can I find out more information when I need the information that's not on the profile?
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, it's all those things, and within the context of Trove, kind of like being able to make it easier for people that don't even know what mapping is, or for example, the mutual aid group that I helped start, Cooperation Long Island, there's only one person in the group that is excited about the idea of mapping. And I'm like, we're literally a network of nonprofits and other social impact networks on like in this whole territory. And the fact that we don't know about what each other is doing is ridiculous. And we should have a map. And like, no one gets excited about that. And so, and it takes a lot of work to do the mapping. And so I know that problem probably exists in other places too, where there's one person that knows that they need a map to solve the problems, but they might not have the time or energy or capacity to build a map, because it's like people get paid a full-time job to do mapping, right? And so part of what Trove wants to do is like when you create a community, like so a lot of the data in Trove it's nodes, right? So like you create a community, you create a project, and so we want to make the mapping piece of it almost automatic, where like in your community dashboard you can say these are the relationships between our community and another community, and then if that other community says like yep, cool, then you could just have these dynamically generated maps from each community's perspective. So that's my vision for the short medium term of Trove, is being able to let communities do a basic map in a way that's kind of dynamically generated. And then there's always going to be cases that Trove is not going to be able to cover. And then I want to be able to let people pull the data out of Trove and then use their own software to build on top of it and to make their own map and make it more detailed if they want. But the kind of like use case, I'm mostly focusing on the people that aren't excited about mapping, but I think probably we would get a lot of use out of the map because it helps them combine efforts and find each other and not duplicate work.
Yeah, this might be a bit meta, but I also really liked your visualization yesterday of the kind of ecosystem, and I think mapping the way we're looking at it is a kind of great way to help people think about their organization as part of a natural system or organic system, and kind of start tilting that mindset a bit. Because Gil had a great session earlier this week as well about flipping capitalism, and I feel like if we can show these organic natural flows of information, resources, knowledge, like it goes a long way in telling that story. Sorry, Vince, that just inspired that for me.
Yeah, it's almost like you're showing. It's like instead of talking about, you guys need to think like systems thinkers, it's like you look at the map and there's an intuitive sense of, oh, okay, these are how things are connected. It's if you understand the map, you intuitively get how the systems are working without even understanding that you're changing your perspective. You're doing that work. So I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think the dynamic map, that the sort of malleable and dynamic map from points of view that what you just created generates is a way of depicting, like when you were doing the superimposition the other day of SDGs and donut economics and the 12, that whole thing. It's like I was hurting for, like, but there are fat edges between this thing over here and this thing over here that are on opposite sides of a wheel. If you flatten it into a wheel and you think about it, like, and these SDGs don't have anything to do with each other, but these SDGs have everything to do with each other. And like, you want to be able to see that stuff the way you can in the graph that we were just looking at. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And the way that I feel okay with putting things in the map and there being, like a fat edge between things on the opposite side. My conciliation process is is troves. Like, so a trove is like a kind of intentionally magical type of word. It's like a treasure chest you pop in, and the idea of a trove is it's like underground. Like, it's something that you can't really see, but it helps you make those underground connections between things that you wouldn't otherwise see from the map. So the map is kind of like the entry point, right? Like, you look at the map, you're like, oh, I want to go check out this place. But then once you get to that place, you discover all this other, you talk to someone, you have a conversation, and then you realize, oh wait, I actually am in the wrong spot. I need to be going to check out this thing on this other side of the city. And so the connections happen. Yeah, the serendipity will happen, but I think the map is a good place to get started. Like, when you go to Disney World, you open up the map. Thanks, Pete. You open up the Disney World map and you say you chart your course, but then you end up taking detours and you end up finding, oh, someone says, oh no, you need to go check out this thing, or like, oh, talk to this person. So I think, and yeah, the physical representation of those like layers on top of each other is a very simplified. It's not a territory. It's just a map, but it's a list of intersecting and overlapping maps, which the actual data and the way that the information can be connected is actually a lot easier. I think the use of the map is that people understand what a map is, and you it's something, it's a lot more approachable than the topic graph of Trove, where you see how everything is all related in this giant hairball, because people want to just like, some people love that and some people want to vomit when they see that.
I gotta go. It's been great.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill. Great seeing you.
I can't find the goddamn button.
There's no escape.
The hotel flotilla.
Imagine we hacked into Zoom and just got rid of the leave button. It's like, nope.
Check out, but never leave.
Yeah, Hotel California vibes.
That song has been stuck in my head all week because my dad bought loop pedals, and it's been playing on loop quite literally.
Loop pedals?
Wait, Charles, you're a musician. You don't know what a loop pedal is?
Yeah, but what's that about your dad and loop pedals? Sorry, you got my attention.
Oh, he bought loop pedals for his guitar, and also I have an electric keyboard, so you can hook it up to the keyboard.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fun, fun, fun. Well, get ready for the 28th of June is the Kiko Lab art party. So all that stuff, if just saying. Oh, and Pete, can I say? You can say. Pete'll be in the hot seat.
Talking about ergonomics and how I'm set up, which I think we have to hear from a bunch of different people, because a lot of us have thought about it.
Yeah, you'll kick it off, and then we can,
Yep.
It's about creative flow. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I could spend 30 seconds on my setup. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, well, so that's just, a little heads up the week after. Anyway, I'm around, and I'm sort of, in the other room for a minute, but I'm eavesdropping excitedly.
I like that term, excited eavesdropping. That's nice. That should be, you know, on the, like, turning video off screen, just saying excitedly eavesdropping. Makes somebody feel a lot more present.
Yeah. Instead of took a bathroom break.
Yeah, I was eating carrots at the beginning of this call, but I didn't want to I had my camera off because of that. Do we want to dive into the actual map at all? Just curious. In the next 12 minutes, I know we did a bit last week. Is there anything we want to work through that way?
Thoughts?
We don't have to at all. It was just
It's editable, right? And generates, like, the in terms of generating new edges from, like, entering things into the Airtable, that will work, or
no. So there's two things. So one is, if you want to be able to, it's kind of like Google Docs, where, like, you can view something but you can't edit it unless you have if you're logged into a Google account. Or actually, I don't know if that's true. I guess it's more like Airtable, where, yeah, you can't edit the database unless you're logged into an Airtable account. So with Graph Commons, you have to have a Graph Commons account. So if any of you guys make a Graph Commons account, I can share the Graph Commons things, and you can edit the map directly. Or we could agree to just edit the Airtable and then just, like, import it over every time we make a set of changes. So that's what I've been doing. I made some changes over the weekend, and then I just deleted the map and re-imported it.
Okay, but you have to do that for them to show up. It's not like it's not like if we edit an Airtable, it's automatically generated. You have to the Graph Commons.
Correct. But that would probably be a great microservice for us to spend a few hours building, just, like, have a sync, because yeah, so that's what I'm building for Trove to Graph Commons or Trove to Kumu, is a microservice that will keep it synced. So that's something that I feel like should just be a Airtable plugin, honestly, because a lot of people use Airtable and should be able to generate maps from it. That might be something we could even sell. It's like $2. Like, I feel like people would pay for that. It's like, yeah, the amount of hours people spend manually doing mapping, and when they could just be using Airtable, like, that would probably save people a lot of time.
Well, I was really enthused by looking at the functionality. I mean, I've played around a little bit on Trove, and, you know, and seeing it in this real situation, and, you know, the editing of the event page and the collection of the resources and links and stuff seems really cool. And I mean, it would be a great put our energy where our mouths are, you know, to figure out, like, some things that we can make interoperate between Factor and Trove, you know, because I don't think, in many, though there are things that are overlaps in terms of profiles and groups, which is going to be true of any two platforms. The sort of end use, and, like, you know, we don't have events and don't aspire to that kind of, like, activity focus, and the pure, like, wide open granular discovery is something that you may aspire to, but you don't really have a lot of access to right now. And it seems like we could be really complementary in that way.
Michael, we should probably set up another event to dive into Trove Factor, and then also we could put it on the calendar and invite people that want to join. to give some context, so Pete and I, when we first started Flotilla, the first few meetings were just the two of us basically, and we were doing a lot of like direct work in the meetings of just like, all right, well today we're gonna figure out how to sync this piece with this piece, and then as it got a little bigger, it's harder to like be very focused in doing the work. It takes a little bit more, how do I say, I guess collective determination, and also I'm blanking on the word, when you're being strict with yourself.
Self-discipline.
Discipline, yes. So I think, yeah, you need discipline in like a group context to be able to like, all right, that's not relevant to the, we're trying to get things done. This is the topic of conversation. So I think that's probably the main barrier, and we should probably just schedule a call that's specifically with that intention in mind, so that the discipline piece is built in, and that the collective, like people who are showing up to the event want to either be directly involved with that work or observe it happening, and that way it doesn't feel like people are just like listening into something that they're not interested in.
Yeah,
Sure.
that was an interesting, I don't want to say tension, but point yesterday in our interoperability conversation. There were people who were like, I can build this now. I can do this right now. Like, just let me build basically. And then there were people who were like, we need to have the conversations about what this encompasses, everything that could happen, everything that like needs to be covered. And both sides have merit and both perspectives have merit, but I do see the value of having the broader conversation while also working and testing and trialing. Like Vince, I think you do a great job from meeting to meeting, coming back with like great work that you're like, here, look, I did it. What do you guys think? Like I think that's a great approach as well, combining the action with these kind of high level conversations. I think that's where a lot of groups fall short actually, is they have the high level conversations but not the action associated. But yeah, just to say.
Thanks, Phil. No, that's a great compliment. Appreciate that. My secret for that is intentional event planning. so like I put an event on the calendar for 2 p.m., said this is the focus, and then I posted whoever wants to come, we're working on this thing here at this time. And so like, yeah, and then versus like when you have a looser agenda, like our systems innovators room has a pretty loose agenda, and it's great because we could go to places we never thought we're going to go, but we don't really get shit done. But it helps, those conversations help then when we're building, oh wait, last week we talked about this thing, like, and actually now we incorporate. So yeah, doing the building and the reflection and then going back and forth in an iterative process is probably the best way to build and also build right. You know, think enough, but not think too much.
Vincent, that was intentional agenda, is the way you describe that?
Yeah. Intentional, like event planning and
event planning, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we've seen it a factor as well. You have the best laid plans. You think something through as thoroughly as possible for a feature or a new whatever, and you're like, right, this is it. This is perfect. We've thought it through, and then you push it, and there's like 15 things you didn't think of as soon as you push it. It's like, oh, that's connected to this. That affects this. Like, that isn't intuitive as intuitive as we thought it was. That kind of, there's a lot of learning that happens after it's created that you can't do kind of theoretically.
Yep, exactly. Like Trove, Pete not being able to edit the Trove event today, that even from Flotilla.
Just to chime in what I put in the chat, part of my eager eavesdropping picked out some kind of resonance around before and after. Well, the before is the intention, but also in terms of the lenses of harvesting and curation, sense making.
I'm gonna hop off. See you guys next week.
Thanks, Vincent.
Should we continue? Should we set an intention for next week's before I go quick? should we continue mapping? Are there any other topics that we should?
I think we should see. I think we should keep in touch in the channel and see what emerges.
Yeah. Or are there commitments we can make, like filling out
Yeah.
a certain amount of the mapping, or adding a certain amount of information? Like, I'll add 5 networks or something like, not that exactly, but are 5 related organizations or something along that line.
That would actually be a great action item, Phil. Like, so each of us add 5 relationships between our sovereign and other sovereigns that are in the database with descriptions or as much information as we want. That would actually be great.
Happy to commit to that. We can do that. And how do we feel about, is it okay to add another entity? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. If there's an entity that's not there that you want to add, then you could, yeah, that would be part of it, I guess. Yeah, adding their entity and maybe just a website would be the mandatory fields.
Next week, though, you're talking about the event page for the next one.
The Airtable.
We're talking about the Airtable.
Oh, okay.
For that generates the map.
It's called the Generative Commons map. So that sounds great. Good idea, Phil. I'm gonna run. See you guys soon.
See you.
Are we good to wrap? I think it's a good
Yeah.
spot.
I think it's a good stopping point.
Sure.
Thanks all. Good call.
Great seeing you. Talk
Hey,
soon. Have a great weekend.
you too.
Also, happy Juneteenth. Sorry, I forgot to mention today. I haven't said it. You're the first people I've seen today, so. But yeah.
Cheers.